In the third year of my marriage to Ethan, his young secretary sent their bed photos to my phone. Without batting an eye, I forwarded the photos to my lawyer. Soon after, the lawyer sent over the compiled documents. After reviewing them, I signed my name on the divorce agreement without hesitation. Then I called Ethan. A delicate female voice answered, "Mr. Hayes is unavailable at the moment. Is there anything I can tell him for you?" So I hung up. I took the opportunity to send him the signed divorce agreement and the lawsuit. When I received another provocative message from the young secretary, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. This divorce was finally done. Congratulations to Ethan for leaving with nothing. Both Ethan's family and mine were in business, comfortably well off, but ours was not a business alliance. We were childhood sweethearts. From school uniforms to a wedding dress, in the eyes of the world, we were a match made in heaven. Falling in love with Ethan was not a strange thing. Our families were old friends, and our mothers were best friends. It was said that while I was still in the womb, they had wanted to arrange our marriage. Even our names were taken from the characters for promise. After we were born, Ethan and I were almost always together, from babbling infants to our bright, youthful teenage years. My life was filled with Ethan. He was 2 months older than me and had always acted like a little adult, calling himself my older brother. He was the one who held my hand as we walked into kindergarten. In the unfamiliar environment, I was so scared I cried. Little Ethan patiently comforted me, gave me candy, and sang to me. Later, in elementary school, when I did poorly on a test and was sad, he was the one who came with my favorite candy to coax me and help me correct my mistakes. In middle school, when I got my period for the first time and stained my skirt, I was mortified and didn't know what to do. It was Ethan who ran to the supermarket to buy me sanitary pads. I don't know how he asked the sales clerk, but when he came back, besides the pads, he also had a heat pack and brown sugar water. When he handed them to me, I stared at his flushed face and couldn't help but tease him. "Ethan, your face is so red." "No, it's not. You're seeing things." He covered his face with one hand and shoved the things into mine with the other. Along with them was his school uniform jacket. When I came out of the restroom, having taken care of things and wearing his jacket tied around my waist, Ethan was waiting for me outside. "Chloe, does your stomach hurt?" he had asked the sales clerk, who had told him that girls' stomachs hurt at this time. He asked, watching my face. When I nodded, he got anxious. "Then I'll carry you to the hospital." I blushed at his overreaction. "No need, it doesn't hurt that much. I'll be fine after a little rest at home." So Ethan carried me on his back, all the way home, under the curious gazes of others. The sun was beautiful that day. I can still remember its warmth on my skin, and the boy's flushed earlobes. I leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Thank you, big brother Ethan." The boy's neck turned red. He tightened his grip and walked faster, carrying me on his back. I giggled on his back. After middle school, I stopped calling him big brother, and just used his name. No matter how he tried to coax me, I wouldn't call him that. I never expected that just saying it once now would make him so shy. It was so much fun. Little did I know, my own face was just as red as his. That day, the blushing boy and girl lit up the colors of youth. The true stirring of a young heart probably began that day. First love, so beautiful. This sweet, innocent affection lasted throughout our youth, all the way through high school. On my 18th birthday, the 18-year old Ethan invited our entire class to wish me a happy birthday. He was dressed up, with the brooch I had given him pinned to his chest. His hair was perfectly combed, usually so composed. He stood before me with a bouquet of roses, stammering, "Chloe, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" I nodded, my eyes filled with tears, and threw myself into his arms. We hugged and kissed amidst the cheers of our classmates. At that moment, my love for him reached its peak. Later, he told me that although we had always been in love, dating was different from being childhood friends. Dating required a sense of ceremony. A confession should start with a bouquet of flowers. So, on my special day, he had officially confessed to me, changing our relationship to boyfriend and girlfriend. Senior year was tough, but with Ethan by my side, I only felt sweetness. We worked hard together, studied together, and watched our scores improve with each exam. Later, we both got into the same university. Actually, for our families, we should have both chosen finance to eventually take over the family businesses, but I preferred mathematics. So, after some discussion, I majored in mathematics, and Ethan went into finance. At that time, he had told me, "Chloe, you just have to do what you love. I will work hard to grow and protect you." I believed him. My parents, who had watched him grow up, also believed in him. They had long planned to hand over the Croft Corporation to their son-in-law after they were gone, so he could continue to protect their daughter. Knock, knock, knock. A knock on the door. Mrs. Chen came in. Miss, everything is packed. Old Lee is waiting downstairs. All right, let's go. Mrs. Chen and Mr. Lee had watched me grow up. After I married Ethan, they had moved with me to our new home to take care of me. A year ago, I had told them to slowly pack up my things in this house. Mrs. Chen didn't know why I was doing this, but she treated me like her own daughter, and she followed my instructions, personally packing my belongings, never letting anyone else touch them. She hadn't even told Ethan about it. Until today, all I had left in this house were a few closets of clothes. Those were all bought by Ethan. I didn't want to take any of them, perhaps for that reason. In this past year, he had never noticed that my things were almost all gone. After we officially got together, our parents bought us a villa in the most convenient location, close to both of our family's companies, as our marital home. Now, I had lived here for 3 years. Everything in this house was personally chosen by Ethan and me. I had already forgotten the feeling of choosing them. I walked out without hesitation. Outside, Mr. Lee had already moved the suitcases to the trunk. There were several other cars behind him. That was the cleaning company I had hired. After I left, they would enter the villa and clear out everything that was left. They were very professional. In just one day, they could completely erase all traces of my life here. And tomorrow, this villa would be sold at a low price by a real estate agent. A buyer had already been found. They were just waiting for it to be cleaned before they moved in. On the way, my phone rang. It was Ethan. Chloe, were you looking for me just now? I said nothing. I'm sorry, I was busy and didn't see it. Don't be mad, my dear wife. I won't do it again. His voice was still so clear, full of love, always so sweet when he spoke to me. Indeed, we had only been married for 3 years, and he was only 25 now. 25, young and successful. He was indeed a coveted catch for many wealthy families, but unfortunately for them, he had a childhood sweetheart of equal standing who had gotten to him first. He was also the domineering CEO that young girls adored. Chloe, why aren't you talking? Did you see the message I sent you? I asked. On the other end, he must have checked his phone again. His voice was puzzled. No message. What did you send? Chloe, as expected, the message had been deleted by his secretary. I laughed softly and changed the subject. When are you coming back? This time, he had gone to a neighboring city for a big project, planning to be gone for a week. It had already been 2 days over. There's a problem with the project. It'll be another 2 days, he said with a pout, then added playfully, I miss you so much. I wish I could come home and hug my Chloe right now. I didn't comfort him as I usually would. I just smiled again. There's a surprise waiting for you when you get home. Oh, you're the best, Chloe. After a few more perfunctory words, I hung up. While I was on the phone with him, his secretary had sent me several more photos. He was leaning against the headboard. On the phone, a robe loosely draped over him, his expression gentle. He was speaking words of love, as if he were truly that devoted. Among the photos were 2 plane tickets to a scenic resort. All of this proved that he wasn't busy with the project at all, but was fooling around with his secretary and planning a romantic getaway. I didn't reply to her. She was of no use to me anymore. I had deliberately sent the text message in the first place. I knew she would delete it, just like she had deleted my incoming calls to him after provoking me in the past. She thought she finally had a chance to move up, and, by deleting the message, he wouldn't know that I had signed the agreement and filed for divorce. By the time the court ruled, our marriage would be over. After we were divorced, she could pretend to be ignorant and seize the opportunity to take my place. But she didn't know that she wasn't the first to provoke me. I had forgotten who sent me the first message. Maybe it was a junior from his university department. In the 2nd year of our marriage, maybe it was a new intern at his company. There were too many, but at that time, Ethan was just flirting with them. Nothing substantial. This secretary was the most successful. She had been flirting with him for half a year, and this time she had finally gotten what she wanted and climbed into his bed. I looked at the social media posts she had deliberately sent me, the expensive gifts she was showing off, and just wanted to laugh. Did she have any idea that I could sue to get all of those things back? Of course, I had already had my lawyer prepare the lawsuit. From the very first one to the current secretary, I would get back every penny Ethan had spent on them. They had delivered the evidence right into my hands. I don't know why they were so bold. Did they think sending me these things would make me angry? That I would break down? That I would cause a scene? I would only save the evidence. And then I would make these young girls who knew he was married and still wanted to be the third party pay for their actions. Of course, the man who couldn't control himself was the most despicable. The young girls wanted his money, wanted to be rich, but they had used the wrong method. And Ethan, unable to be faithful, betraying our marriage, deserved to be punished even more. My parents were already waiting for me at home. My mom was surprised to see several suitcases in the car. "Chloe, what is this? Why did you bring so much luggage?" "Mom, I'm divorcing Ethan." My parents froze, thinking I was joking. "Chloe, are you sick? Why would you want to divorce him?" My mom said, reaching out to feel my forehead. "Let's go inside and talk," I said, taking her hand and leading her into the living room. My dad sent the others away. "Chloe, what's going on?" my dad asked, concerned. He knew that although I was spoiled, I was never willful. I placed the printed documents in front of my parents. They looked at them, confused. The more they read, the darker their faces became. When they saw the latest photos, my dad slammed the documents on the floor and cursed. "That bastard dares to cheat. He's gone too far. I'm going to make old Hayes give my baby an explanation." My mom was also shocked. She held my hand, tears streaming down her face. "Chloe, I didn't know you were suffering so much. If I had known he would turn out like this, I would never have let you two be together." They had watched him grow up and thought they knew him best. Who would have thought that the person who had protected their daughter since childhood would be fooling around outside so soon after getting married? And now this filth was being thrown in their daughter's face. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? You've been suffering all alone. How hard it must have been for you," my mom said, heartbroken. My dad stood up, his eyes red with anger. "I'm going to call that bastard right now. And old Hayes too. I'm going to ask him how he raised his son." "Dad, don't call yet," I said. My mom thought I was still trying to protect him and said, both angry and anxious, "Silly child, he's treated you like this, and you still want to protect him. Ethan is in bed with his little secretary right now. He won't answer. As for Uncle Hayes, we can tell him later," I said calmly, as if I weren't talking about my cheating husband. "Chloe, are you out of your mind from anger?" "Mom, I'm really fine. I hope we can wait until Ethan gets back to tell his family. I have other things to take care of in the next few days." "Mom, Dad, trust me, I won't let myself be taken advantage of." After a lot of persuasion, my parents were finally convinced. When Ethan received calls for help from his past flings, he had just gotten off the plane with his new secretary. The person on the other end had been crying and talking for a long time. After hanging up, his face was ashen. Only then did he realize something was wrong. He had been on a business trip for so long, and Chloe hadn't called him once. No wonder her voice had sounded so distant on the phone last time. So she had found out about the gifts he had given to the others. Chloe had been spoiled by both families since she was a child. How could she have ever been so wronged? She loved him so much. She must be furious now. Ethan was very angry. These people had taken so many things from him, and they couldn't even keep a small secret. Now it had gotten back to Chloe, and they still wanted his help. It was a pipe dream. He quickly called Chloe, but he couldn't get through. The young secretary saw his bad mood and said in a sweet, coquettish voice, "Mr. Hayes, what's wrong? Didn't I tell you that we have no relationship after we get back? Watch your tone when you speak to me," he scolded. The young secretary lowered her head in grievance. He was in no mood for pity right now. He got in the car and told the driver to go straight home, completely ignoring the young secretary who was chasing after him. Chloe had actually blocked him. He couldn't help but smile. That little girl. She had always been possessive of him since they were young. He never thought that after all these years, she would still be throwing tantrums at him. It made him feel like he was back in his youth. If he so much as spoke a few extra words to another girl, her cheeks would puff out, and she would look unhappy. He would have to coax her for a long time before she would finally smile. "Sir, the gate won't open. We can't get in," the driver said awkwardly, stopping the car outside the villa. He didn't know what was wrong. The gate usually opened automatically. Why was it malfunctioning today? "Chloe is throwing a little tantrum. It's fine. I'll get out myself." His smile deepened. That little girl. She was even playing the lock me out game. He got out of the car, tried the fingerprint lock, and it failed. He then entered the password, and it also failed. He was helpless. He shouted towards the inside, "My dear Chloe, I'm back. Let me explain first." A sound of footsteps immediately came from inside the villa. His Chloe was just like when they were young. She could never be mad at him for long. Every time she was angry, as soon as he coaxed her, she would come running to open the door. His smile froze when he saw the person who opened the door. Who was this? Why was there a strange man in his house? Was he a new servant? The man, in his pajamas, poked his head out the door and asked, "Who are you looking for? Who are you?" Ethan asked, his face dark. The man was baffled by the question. "You're at my door, messing with my gate, shouting, and you're asking who I am." "Your house," he sneered. "This is my house. Where's Chloe? Did she ask you to help her with this act? Open the door. I don't want to talk to you." The man also laughed with anger. He pointed at the gate, then at the villa behind him. "I don't know you, and I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm guessing you're looking for the previous owner. I don't know where they moved. I bought this villa 3 days ago. All legal and above board." "Impossible. This is my and Chloe's marital home. How could it be sold to you?" He didn't believe it. The property management came over, and they recognized him. They awkwardly explained that the new owner of the villa was indeed this man, but he still didn't believe it. In the end, the man, out of respect for the property management, opened the door and let him in to see for himself. Inside the villa, there was not a single thing that belonged to him and Chloe. He looked at the empty rooms. The paintings were gone, the curtains they had chosen, the carpets, all gone. The man saw him and sneered. "I told you, I bought this house." How could Chloe bear to sell their marital home? It seemed he had really hurt her this time. He left, dejected. When Ethan came to find me, I had just finished a call with my lawyer. My mom, hearing from the butler that he had arrived, was so angry she wanted to personally kick him out. "Let him in, Mom, don't get worked up," I said. He came in and greeted my mom, but she ignored him. He gave a wry smile and knelt down in front of me. His voice was still gentle and full of affection. "I'm late. I've made my Chloe sad." I kept my head down and said nothing. He continued to explain. "Chloe, there's nothing between me and them. Those gifts were project bonuses from the company, arranged and distributed by my assistant. It's just that my assistant made a mistake and used my personal account. I didn't tell you at the time because I was afraid you would misunderstand." He had already prepared his excuses. After all, I was a spoiled rich girl. What did I know about the ins and outs of running a company? Besides, I loved him so much. He had known me for over 20 years. He knew me too well. As long as he admitted his mistake quickly, I would forgive him. It had always been this way. But I just looked into his eyes and asked softly, "Is the scenery in Cloud City beautiful?" His face changed instantly. "Did you know? You still have your secretary's perfume on you." He quickly explained. "That was an accident. Chloe, don't misunderstand. Did you know? I called you many times, and I sent you messages, but you never replied." As I spoke, tears rolled down my cheeks, making me look pitiful and sad. I had practiced this expression in the mirror for a long time. This angle made me look the most fragile and easily broken. "Chloe, don't cry. I can explain everything," he said anxiously, reaching out to wipe my tears, but I avoided him. I took out my phone and showed him the provocative messages from his flings, which I had carefully saved over the years. One by one, when he saw the first one, his face turned pale, all the way to his little secretary's messages. From the first time he had flirted with her half a year ago, to the indecent photos from a few days ago, his face was as white as a sheet. These photos and messages made his previous explanation seem so perfunctory and hypocritical. "Chloe, His hands were trembling. He wanted to touch me but was again avoided. "These are fake. They're all fake," he said in a last-ditch effort. I just cried silently. "Let's get a divorce." "No, I won't divorce you. Never," he blurted out. He knelt before me, swearing an oath. "Chloe, I was drunk that day. I really didn't know. Chloe, I don't want to hurt you. Don't divorce me." He was still making excuses, still lying, but I was satisfied. This was what I wanted. This way, I would have more time to settle the finances. "Chloe, don't divorce me, please. I will never make you sad again." He spoke for a long time before I finally seemed to relent, saying heartbrokenly, "You should go. I don't want to see you right now. Let me calm down." He didn't want to leave, but my mom had him thrown out. The moment he was gone, I immediately wiped away my tears and waited for the lawyer to arrive. When I was talking and laughing with the lawyer, my mom thought I was delirious with grief, but she didn't know that I had been planning for this day for 3 years. Now that the fruit was finally ripe, how could I not be happy? When did I stop loving Ethan? I've even forgotten myself. Perhaps it was also on a bright afternoon, in university, because our majors were in different buildings. We could only see each other briefly in the evenings after class. Later, as our coursework became heavier, we could only see each other on weekends, but we called each other every day. Our relationship, after so many years, would not change because of distance. We never felt any distance when we were together. At first, it was when I saw someone confess their feelings for him on the school's confession page, but I trusted him and even teased him about it. He was handsome, rich, and charming. It was normal for people to like him. I had enough confidence and security not to be jealous, but during our limited meetings, I noticed that another person's name started to appear frequently in his conversations. I felt a little uncomfortable, but I didn't think much of it, until I saw a video posted by a passerby on the confession page. The poster had filmed it by chance, with the title, "My OTP is real, so sweet, I love gossip," so I clicked on it. In the video, a handsome boy and a cute girl were leaning their heads together, smiling and talking. I don't know what the girl said, but the boy smiled fondly and stroked her head. Their eyes were full of tenderness. The bright sunlight shone on them, as if a pink filter had been added, a perfect picture of young love. If the boy hadn't been my boyfriend, Ethan, I would have been shipping them too. I was shaking with anger. I went to the comment section. Only then did I learn that this girl was the one who had confessed to him before. He had told me he didn't know her, but other comments mentioned her name, the same name that had been appearing in his conversations lately. So there had been signs all along. I stumbled out of bed, ready to go and confront him, but I ran into my roommate who had just come back. She saw my frantic state and asked, "Chloe, where are you going?" "I'm going to find Ethan." My roommate knew about our relationship. She hesitated for a moment, then held me back. "Chloe, do you want to know what you look like right now?" My mind was a mess. The anger and pain of a suspected betrayal made it impossible for me to think clearly. Hearing her words, I just shook my head, still wanting to run out. She forcefully pulled me back into the room and pushed me in front of a full-length mirror. I looked up and saw a face contorted with anger, messy hair, a face streaked with tears, a button on my pajamas undone, and my feet were bare. Who was this? I stared blankly at the woman in the mirror. The person in the mirror looked just as lost as I did, but still twisted and terrifying. How could this be me? I had never been so disheveled. Seeing that I had calmed down, she sat me down and poured me a glass of water. It was obvious she had seen the confession page too. That day, she listened to me cry and curse for hours. Finally, she said gently, "Chloe, you are Chloe Croft. You should always be confident, bright, and full of life. You shouldn't be like this." Her family was very poor. She had struggled to even go to school and had to work part-time to pay for tuition. Later, I had my family help her, sponsoring all her school expenses and getting her a tutoring job at a friend's house. Last year, when her family had a problem, I was the one who arranged for a hospital and successfully treated her mother, so she was very grateful to me and often said I was her little son. Now, hearing her say this again, I subconsciously turned to look in the mirror. I still looked like a ghost, but what she said made sense. I am Chloe Croft, the heiress of the Croft family. My life doesn't have to revolve around Ethan. I planned to confront him when we met on the weekend. After all, we had been childhood friends for so many years. I really did like him, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him, but since he liked someone else now, although I was very angry, we could part on good terms. But to my surprise, he acted as if nothing had happened. He came on the weekend with my favorite cake, his tone and actions as affectionate as ever. I didn't understand what he meant, so I asked him directly. I asked him, "Ethan, are you cheating on me?" He denied it vehemently. I showed him the video I had saved. After watching it, he sighed with a mixture of helplessness and fondness. "Chloe, it's just the angle. There were a lot of us there discussing something. Look here, aren't there other people? So my baby Chloe is jealous. I'll be more careful in the future and not give anyone a chance to spread rumors." He was as gentle as ever, his eyes filled with love for me. The hand on my head was still as warm as ever, but I felt as if I had been plunged into an ice cave. I had been alive for 20 years, and had known him for 20 years. Only today did I realize that in his heart, I was a fool. The distance, the intimate little gestures, he thought they were nothing, and his explanation was so full of holes, so half-hearted, so perfunctory that if I had asked a few more questions, he would have been exposed. Seeing that I didn't speak, he took my hand and shook it, coaxing, "Chloe, we're going to get married one day. You have to have a little more faith in me." Yes, married. I was going to marry him. So, we were going to get married, and he could flirt with other people. After flirting, he would still have me at home waiting to marry him. In that moment, I felt that the person I had loved for so many years had suddenly become rotten. I didn't immediately condemn him for this one incident. I continued to observe him and found several other people he was flirting with. There was no physical cheating, but the tone of their conversations, the intimate little gestures, all showed that their relationship was not ordinary. They all declared to me that he was a scumbag. I had been blind for 20 years to finally see this person clearly. I thought back on all the years I had spent with him, and the more I thought, the more disgusted I became. From that day on, I secretly enrolled in finance courses and studied until I was in a daze, because I didn't know if he truly loved me or had other motives. The accumulation of generations of my family's wealth could not be destroyed in my hands. Fortunately, I still had my roommate. When she learned of my plans, she switched her major to finance. After graduation, I had her placed in his family's company. After all, as the young madam of the Hayes Corporation, it was easy to find a job for a classmate in her field. I even specifically asked him to take good care of her, so she acted under his name in the company. No one would suspect me. This love struck fool. All these years, they had only seen that I was deeply in love with him. Even when rumors reached my ears, I always believed in my love, never once questioning him. Content to be his wife at home, everyone said the Croft family's daughter was a hopeless romantic, a top student from a prestigious school who had gotten married right after graduation to become a full-time housewife. She didn't care about her own family's large company at all, letting her husband manage the projects. In the future, he would surely inherit both the Hayes and the Croft corporations, and the two families would become one. This rumor had been circulating in high society since we got married. Everyone tacitly assumed that the Croft Corporation would be merged with the Hayes Corporation in the future. Therefore, all the far-sighted bosses sought him out for cooperation, wanting to get in early and get a piece of the pie when the Hayes Corporation swallowed the Croft Corporation. Their idea wasn't wrong. The two companies were indeed about to become one, but it wasn't the Hayes Corporation. It was the Croft Corporation, my Croft Corporation, his personal assets, and his shares in the Hayes Corporation, after the lawyer reviewed the evidence and agreements, would all be transferred to my name. And after we got married, every time one of his flings provoked me, I would pick a project from his company and hint to him that the Croft Corporation was also interested in participating. A man who is just cheated is at his most guilty and remorseful. And so, most of his company's profitable projects were transferred to the Croft Corporation. He never suspected anything, and for fear of upsetting me, he transferred the projects very readily. After all, the Croft and Hayes families were so close they were practically one. In whose hands did it matter? I had been acting for 5 years, so much so that all our friends knew I was deeply in love with Ethan, so much so that when our families were discussing the marriage, they didn't even consider a prenuptial agreement, so much so that he had no defenses against me before or after the marriage. In fact, to show his sincerity, in front of both our families, he had signed a prenuptial agreement, promising that if we ever divorced, for any reason, he would leave with nothing. He also added a supplementary clause: if the divorce was because he had wronged me, all his shares in the Hayes Corporation would be transferred to me without compensation. At that time, the 22-year-old Ethan had held my hand, his eyes overflowing with love. "Chloe, I swear I will never betray you. This prenuptial agreement will never come into effect. This is my guarantee to you. You will always have a way out." How had I acted then? Oh, I remember I had cried. I had been so moved. I had hugged him and told him not to sign such a thing, but he had insisted, and in the presence of both our families, he had signed the agreement. At that time, both families had even had the agreement notarized. After receiving the notarized agreement, I had thrown a little tantrum, saying I wanted to lock this unlucky agreement in a dark room. The adults had laughed at me for being so childish. For so many years, no one had ever mentioned the agreement again. Even he had forgotten that I still had this thing. He didn't know that after I got the agreement, I had immediately put it in my private safe, under multiple layers of security, to protect this precious treasure. This was the grave he had dug for himself. Of course, I had to be extremely careful. When the lawyer came again, he brought a thick stack of documents. I went through them carefully, one by one. When I saw that the latest project from the Hayes Corporation had also been transferred to the Croft Corporation, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Aria, you even got this for me." The young woman beside me also laughed. "Every little bit counts. Our great President Hayes worked so hard on a business trip for a week to get this project. We can't let his good intentions go to waste." Aria was my roommate. For all these years, she had been working at the Hayes Corporation, working with me from the inside. We were as close as could be. She was grateful for my help in the past. Actually, she was my benefactor. If she hadn't pulled me back that day and made me see clearly, I would have really lived my life in a dream. In the end, I would have probably ended up with a cheating husband and my family's fortune in someone else's hands. In my youth, I could still be Mrs. Hayes. When my beauty faded and I grew old, I would have been swept out of the house. My whole life would have been a joke. I checked the documents and signed my name. Aria was now a senior executive at the Hayes Corporation, with a small number of shares. In recent years, she had also been acquiring some scattered shares. Now, she had transferred all of them to my name. Now, my share was greater than his father's. I waited patiently for a few more days and received the court's judgment. Because of the prenuptial agreement, and because he was the one at fault, the court directly granted the divorce. After receiving the judgment, I immediately called a shareholder meeting at the Hayes Corporation. At that time, Ethan was still at my door with flowers. He had declared that he would pursue me again and win my forgiveness. His father looked at me with a very unfamiliar gaze as I spoke eloquently at the shareholder meeting, as if he had never known me before. When I showed them the projects in the Croft Corporation's hands, and the ones currently in the Hayes Corporation's hands, the shareholders exchanged glances. They were only responsible for their dividends. Of course, they would support whoever could make them money. After I had finished speaking, I smiled and looked at the others. So, now, does anyone have any objections to the choice of the new chairman? Except for his father. All the shareholders sided with me. After all the projects the Hayes Corporation was currently involved in had the Croft Corporation's hand in them. If the Croft Corporation turned against them, the Hayes Corporation would soon be left high and dry. Chloe, we are, after all, family, his father said, sounding 10 years older. I'm sorry, Uncle Hayes, I divorced Ethan this morning. Now, I am just a business partner to the Hayes family. Only then did he remember the agreement they had signed back then. But, Chloe, Ethan hasn't done anything wrong. The court won't grant a divorce. I smiled at him and threw a file at him. If sending bed photos of him with his secretary to my phone doesn't count as a mistake, then I have nothing more to say. His father was instantly silenced. He looked at the documents, his hands trembling with anger. Ethan was summoned to the company by his father and was met with a barrage of scolding. He didn't understand. It wasn't until he saw the judgment that he finally broke down. Impossible. How could the court rule this way? I never received any notification. This is a fake. I'm going to sue. But the judgment clearly stated that he had been aware of the divorce agreement and the lawsuit and had no objections. Therefore, he had no grounds for appeal. I never saw any notification, he said, stumbling as he came to me for confirmation. Chloe, you never sent me the agreement, did you? You're lying to me, aren't you? I did send it. I smiled and had my assistant block him, my smile gentle and kind. The night you were in bed with your secretary, I sent the agreement. The evidence clearly states that you were aware and had no objections. The color drained from his face. He remembered. I had asked him on the phone if he had received it, but he really hadn't seen it. No. When he had gone to take a shower, his secretary had touched his phone. It was that woman who had done it. He collapsed to the floor, his heart filled with hatred for his secretary. His father kicked him, frustrated, apologized to her. I had no time to watch their pity party. I said directly, Uncle, you know, just seeing him makes me sick. He should resign from his position at the company. If he leaves the Hayes Corporation and stays out of my sight, I guarantee you'll get every penny of your dividends. Otherwise, I tapped the resignation letter on the table and said coldly, the Hayes Corporation won't need to exist anymore. And now, he is coming with me to finalize the divorce. He came to his senses and wanted to apologize and plead again, but his father slapped him across the face. What more do you want to do? Do you have to ruin the family completely before you're satisfied? His father personally escorted him to finalize the procedures with me, holding the divorce certificate. He still couldn't believe it, muttering to himself, how could this be? Chloe likes me so much. She loves me so much. How could she really divorce me? I ignored them and went straight home. Not long after, the lawsuit to reclaim the marital assets was also won, and I received all the compensation. I finally confessed everything I had done over the years to my parents. My mom was heartbroken and regretful, constantly wiping away tears. My dad, after all, had been in the business world for many years. After a moment of sighing, he quickly started making arrangements for me to inherit the Croft Corporation. I was busy with the inheritance, transferring shares, and socializing. Aria was now the second largest shareholder of the Hayes Corporation, and she was just as busy as I was. Although it was tiring, the feeling of having money and power was really nice. At banquets, no one would call me Mrs. Hayes anymore. They called me Chairman Croft. No one would ever mention the love Struck young lady of the Croft family again. I was no longer anyone's appendage, nor would I ever lose myself for anyone again. I heard the news of Ethan's imprisonment just after I had signed a major project with the government. At first, I thought it was a rumor. Only when the official announcement came out did I learn that he had found out his secretary had deleted his messages, leading to the forced divorce. He felt that it was all her fault that his marriage had ended, that his family had been kicked out of the Hayes Corporation. So, in a fit of rage, he had accidentally pushed her down the stairs. She was gone on the spot. I just sighed a few times and was quickly distracted by a new project Aria brought me. The past had nothing to do with me anymore. As she had said so many years ago, I, Chloe Croft, was meant to live in the sun.